Have you guys ever wondered how Dusknoir and Grovyle went from this to this? I mean this? Good evening everyone, here's another Rapid Rambles where we took a look at anything indie, mod, or retro related with some gameplay and or first impressions. So with Pokemon 30th anniversary wrapped up, we saw updates to Pokemon Go, Pokemon TCG, Cafe Mix, and we got the new Pokemon Pokopia. But what I've been waiting for alongside a new Pokemon Stadium installment is actually a new Pokemon Mystery Dungeon. I have heavy nostalgia for the first two iterations, Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Blue Rescue Team, and as well as Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Explorers of Time. In my opinion, the Mystery Dungeon series is where the Pokemon Company really shines when it comes to storytelling and creativity. Each Pokemon has their own characteristics and personality, as well as like a range of emotions that we have yet to see replicated in some of these more modern games, in my opinion. There was even a one-off anime that I was pretty disappointed didn't become a full-fledged anime series. If I remember correctly, it came with a copy of Blue Rescue Team back in the day on the DS. Current speculation for a new Mystery Dungeon game, a new remake for the Explorers of Time and Darkness in the same vein as they did the remake for Red Rescue Team. But they did back in the day expand upon Explorers of Time and Darkness with the third installment, similar to how they did Ruby, Sapphire, and then Emerald. Well, in this case they did Explorers of Sky, where they introduced the Shaman storyline and the Spinda Cafe. Even though the story was so vast, even in the post game with the Manaphy and Phoebe storylines, the Darkrai stuff, there was even more room to expand, and not so much outwards or towards the future, but more so towards the past. The two Pokemon from the future, Grovyle and Dusknoir, had a very boiling disdain for one another, but at the same time they were very familiar with each other. Some could even say that they were friends in the past turned enemies, and that's what this ROM hack explores. Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Episode 0 and a Dark Past, created by Canet lowercase PMD over on X/Twitter. I don't know if I pronounced that correctly or not, but he did an amazing job creating an original storyline for Dusknoir and Grovyle, where they started off actually from the point where they met up until the point they jump into the past and to current day events, where you first start off in Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Darkness and Time and also Sky. It shows you how they met, how they became friends, and how their paths slowly diverged from one another, influences from different Pokemon, and how they inevitably became bitter enemies. So kind of like an intro to the story. Trico is part of kind of like an orphanage community where Espeon, the leader of the pack, took in scattered Pokemon and created like a community, also like more so like a family, and Trico's part of that. And the way Trico and Duskull meet is Trico was coming back from an expedition and he found the fainted Duskull, and him along with his companion Cherim brought him back to the cave where they're staring at in order to heal him. But like I mentioned, Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, the meat and potatoes of it is a story, so I will have a story spoiler section later on, so I would continue there. But for right now, I kind of want to touch on the gameplay. It's very similar to the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon games that we've known to play and love. The only difference is like there's no mission board. It's kind of like a strict story where it's just the main story. There's no like real like side missions. There's no mission board or request or anything like that. You explore only through what the story allows you to go to, but it's quite a lot. I think so far I've done like 10 dungeons and there's still more to come. And to be honest, I was enjoying myself a lot. It's just the only reason I didn't get a chance to finish because I downloaded the wrong patch. So a previous version that only went up to a certain point of the story, and also my external hard drive is pretty much fried. I need to find a way to extract the data off of here because this is raw. Most of my YouTube stuff is at. But anywho, that's my problem. The dungeons are still procedurally generated. The enemies are also randomly placed, and all the items are. And each time you go through a dungeon, it's different each time. They do add a spin to some of the missions. Like for example, you have one of your companions, Gulpin, from the community/orphanage family group. He's pretty lazy. Well, you find out later on he was actually doing something noble by being knocked out and being tired. But in the game, the way it affects the gameplay is as Duskull, you have to find the stairs before the enemies reach Gulpin and kill him, because if he is hit once, he'll pretty much automatically faint. So you have to use actually your tactics where you'll make Trico and Cherim stay with Gulpin in order to defend him. But at the end of the day, they're CPUs, and if you're like far off, it's harder to coordinate and control the other computers or your companions. There's a lot of variety in this game, but mostly when it comes to typings, the enemy Pokemon Pokemons are ghost types or dark types, because I'm guessing they're going with the theming of this paralyzed timed world. The ambiance is very gloomy, where most of the coloring is all gray to indicate the time paralysis. And in this game, you can't really recruit any of the enemy Pokemon. Like I mentioned, the only way you explore and interact with the world is through the main story. So you're kind of given your partner Pokemon based off of what part of the story you're on. For example, most missions is just you, Duskull, with your partner Trico. Half the time Cherim tags along, and it is a maximum of 4-person team. Sometimes the community leader Espeon comes on a mission with you, and it rotates out depending on what part of the story you're at. You don't really have control which Pokemon you're using, but it keeps things interesting during each segment of the main story. When it comes to items, you'll find the typical stuff: oranberries, fake oranberries, like it's called, what's spelled O-R-E-N berries. You'll find iron thorns, Poke, which I haven't gotten a chance to use those gold coins yet. There are no stores in this game. There's orbs, there's seeds, and I don't know if this is just me, but I haven't ran into any revival seeds. But yeah, it's pretty much the gist of this ROM hack, and I say gist, but I mean it's very expansive. I'm gonna go into details right now. Spoilers up ahead for Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Episode 0. Canet, lowercase PMD on Twitter, did an amazing job with this ROM hack. If you want to check it out, I highly recommend you experience this for yourself. I guess you can compare it to one of the side stories of Pokemon Explorers Sky, like Igglybuff's story, and I forgot what Bidoof's. I think he had his own side story too, but it's a lot more expansive and a lot more. You can tell this guy put a lot of love and effort into this ROM hack. Spoilers in 3, 2, 1.
Who's that Pokemon?
So in this story, we start off with Trico finding Duskull coming back from an expedition. Takes him back to their cave where he has his refugee family there. They're taking refuge from the chaos and the destruction of the world, because even after the initial catastrophe, Pokemon are still raging out. They're becoming more aggressive, they're scared, it's survival of the fittest, and there's no sense of peace. So after Trico takes Duskull home, they meet Espeon and they manage to heal him up. It doesn't really go into detail where Duskull came from. He might have just gotten beat up by some stray Pokemon or something. After some introductions, Trico starts talking about his goals and dreams, how he wants to fix the world and make the sunshine once more. All the other Pokemon within their community are for it and support Trico. Duskull, your character, he's kind of indifferent. He doesn't get what's so bad about this current state of the world, because he's a ghost type, so he kind of flourishes and is able to adapt into his world, even though he was found beat up on the side of the street. You know what I mean? And within the cave, you meet the Minun and Pretzel brothers. Well, not so much Minun, because he's like knocked out unconscious, and Espeon's been trying to heal him as well, but his wounds are pretty severe. So you go on your first expedition in order to find clues as to where you can actually find Celebi. But people mentioned if anybody can return us to the past, that'll be Celebi, the time traveling Pokemon. So you and Duskull go to Chasm Cave, I believe it is, and at the end is where you fight actually a very distraught Starmie who takes the last warp orb. Trico thinks if you have enough warp orbs, you can travel to the past, like we bundle them together and activate them all at once. So you got the Starmie is missing its jewel and is raging out. As soon as you touch the warp orb, Starmie comes and attacks you. You take him down, but the warp orb is already activated, so you kind of come back empty-handed. Next time around, you meet up with like rival gangs, not gangs but groups. There's these group of Mighty Annas that are led temporarily by this tramp bitch that are just hungry and want to like fuck shit up, but you and Trico end up taking them down, and the Mighty Anna turn on the tramp bitch and eat him instead. So you progress through the story trying to find clues as to where Celebi could be hiding. Eventually you do find a feather in all this gray trees landscape. You find this one lightly green feather that could be a clue as to how to find Celebi. You tuck it away and we continue on our journey. But on the beast side of things, we also see how Dialga becomes corrupted. I don't know if it's between like Giratina or somebody's taking out the time years, and Dialga's vulnerable, and that's when Darkrai comes in and takes advantage of the situation, uses his mind control in order to take over Dialga to cause further chaos and plunge the world into further darkness. Darkrai's main goal in life is just to plunge the whole world into darkness. And another main antagonist is a Rampardos. It turns out him and your group leader Espeon have a past where Rampardos was one of the few Pokemon that actually benefited from the world stopping, because that increased anger and distraught actually made him stronger and more violent and more bloodlusted, where he got to a point where he killed Espeon's 2 companions, which were like a Venusaur and a Poliwrath. And in this game, like, you see Pokemon consistently die, not just faint. Like, they get their shit rocked, they get, and I'm jumping around a bit in the story, but you see the Mightyena go in and eat the Trampage. And another group that's similar to like Team Skull is, well, I'll call them like Team Crocnar. They used to be part of actually Espeon's guild, but they had different ideals, where Crocnar says, we're just hiding and running. Eventually the powerful Pokemon are going to catch up and we're going to end up being killed as well. We need to become more powerful and more ruthless. And then Trico was saying that's wrong, and Espeon was also against it, so he abandoned the group and went off on his own. He didn't become like a serious antagonist, he became more like of a, and he's a minor antagonist, I guess you could say. He eventually teams up with the Mightyena, becomes their leader, and what Crocodile does with his 2 friends and the new acquired Mightyena is they try to take over the guild, or I'm sorry, not the guild, the cave where you guys are staying at, but you end up fending them off, and then the Mightyena actually turn on Crocodile and eat him. So there is that. And later you find out that Rampardos is working for Dialga, and at this point nobody knows that it's Darkrai who's actually controlling Dialga. And it turns out he's not actually controlling Dialga. He sent Dialga far away and put him into a deep sleep, and the Dialga that you guys see and then you fight in Temporal Tower is actually more so like a projection that Darkrai created. Through various missions you uncover like different backgrounds. The normally lazy Gulpin turns out that he was the one who healed Minum by using Pain Split, that's why he's always tired. It gets to the point where Rampardos actually succeeds in running out Espeon and the whole group out of their cave. They have to leave their home that they knew for so long. As they're running, they leave Espeon behind to fight Rampardos, and Rampardos ends up killing Espeon. And each Pokemon running away, trying to find new shelters. One Pokemon ends up staying each time, like, so the rest of the group can progress. For example, Old Man Torkoal, he uses self-destruct to take out some of the Sableye, like the little henchman. He kills himself, and then Minum dies immediately, and then Plusle is just fainted, but then one of the Sableye like slits his throat with one of its claws. Like I said, it's pretty gruesome. You don't see like blood everywhere or anything like that. They just slowly like fade gray to match the dead planet. And eventually Rampardos just catch up to you and Trico and Cherim, and as well as Gulpin. Rampardos just runs through Cherim and like murders him, because Rampardos is really bloodlusted to the point where he's not even loyal to Darkrai or Dialga. He doesn't know Darkrai is the one actually pulling the strings just yet, but the reason he's working under Dialga is in order to get a chance to be able to kill him, because that way he can become the strongest Pokemon ever. It's for him, that's all that matters, just becoming stronger. And he shows it with his actions as well. It's not just some villain boasting about how one day I'll be powerful and all that bullshit. And then after Rampardos runs through Cherim, he curve stomps Gulpin and then smacks Trico against a boulder, which sends him flying. And then you're left alone to fight Rampardos, and he just bashes your face in repeatedly, and he cracks your skull, and that later reveals that Duskull's skull, I'm guessing in this case, is more like of a mask, and it reveals like just an empty void of a face, and which sucks in Rampardos. And then you explore your own subconscious as a mystery dungeon. All the enemies within that subconscious mystery dungeon are all your old friends that you have to kill or like avoid. But luckily, like throughout this whole game, you're a ghost type, so you can kind of walk through walls and like get to the stairs a little bit easier. The only thing is you go hungry faster, and there's no apples. Well, going back to the item thing, I know I skipped that, but yeah, this game is pretty gruesome and very well thought out. It's not edgy just to be edgy, and there is no like edgelord stuff. Only the closest thing is like Rampardos, but he shows it, he doesn't just say it. And then when it comes to bosses, like I mentioned, you fight off a Starmie, Crocnar in his new game, which you end up defeating, and then at some point you fight off a Rhyperior, which turns out is the one who put Minum in the initial coma to begin with. You end up taking him down and getting a little bit more information. And there are 2 bosses that were actually just cutscenes, like a Vespa Queen that you, Espeon, Trico, and Cherim initially try to fight, but you get one tapped by Vespa Queen's Silverwind, but Espeon ends up one tapping Vespa Queen, so you guys are all in awe like how powerful Espeon really is. And it turns out Espeon was actually one of the Federation Forces Pokemon from Explorers of Sky. Like, it all ties back and is interconnected very seamlessly into the original main games as well. You even get a few few cutscenes with the original guild members. And not only that, I'm sorry, I skipped over this character, but Diglett is actually the Diglett that used to work at Wigglytuff's guild. Because remember, right now we're in the future with this episode 0. So after that fiasco of like Duskull sucking himself into his own subconscious, Trico on the other hand actually finally ran into Celebi, and they're talking about how he should be sent to the past. And this is where basically their paths diverge, because Duskull sucked in Rampardos, and then but it turns out Darkrai got a chance to take over Rampardos, and he used like manipulation tactics in order to make Duskull into the new Rampardos, his new main henchman that can oversee all the Sableye and do his dirty work. Whereas with Trico, he's talking to Celebi, wanting to be sent to the past, and then all of a sudden you meet the human character. It's like a black shaded out silhouette. Turns out he comes from a world where Pokemon and humans used to coexist, but there was a spatial rift which separated all the Pokemon from all the humans. Is that Pokemon world you're currently at right now in the future? The human world is apparently also went to shit, because I guess we humans aren't any better. We're all a bunch of Rampardos. But the part that made Duskull and Trico diverge in paths was that Celebi explained to Trico that if I take you to the past and you fix things, that means you'll never be born, and all the Pokemon that were born into this timeline will have ceased to have existed. But at the same time, Rampardos told the exact same thing to Duskull, in the sense where like, well, Trico's been hiding this information from you that you're gonna die if you try to fix the past, and all your friends and all your loved ones are gonna die too. Oh, and then also that the sun that you've always wanted to see, you'll never be able to see it, because once you fix the past, you're never going to be born, so you won't even be able to enjoy that small reward at the end of the day. And then Trico mentions to Celebi, well, that doesn't matter, I still want to go and save the world, and then shows how noble and kind-hearted he is. Whereas Duskull, your main character, he just breaks down crying like, oh, I gotta do whatever it takes to prevent that from happening and keep the status quo. That's like the rift right there. Duskull doesn't want his friends to die, and he's scared of dying himself, whereas Trico takes it on the chin and like, it is what it is, we still gotta save the world. I do believe Trico's in the right, because the world is just falling more and more into darkness. Everyone's gonna die anyways, and most of his friends were murdered, so he doesn't have anybody tying him down at that point. And that's pretty much where I got into the story, because I downloaded the wrong patch. Well, not the wrong patch, but an older patch that didn't have the complete story. And also I got delayed with this video because of this shit. But yeah, I really enjoyed the storyboarding, the character development, the characters, it's so well thought out and well implemented, and then it ties back seamlessly to the original story. This is fucking amazing. They should have hired this dude in order to have him work on the next Mystery Dungeon game. And I see him on his Twitter page. He has another ROM hack that I might go check out as well. But yeah, thank you very much. Connect_PMD. I'm able to relive one of my favorite Pokemon series games. Let me know what you think down below. Like, comment, and subscribe. Do you think we're gonna get a new Pokemon Mystery Dungeon game in the near future, or at least within the next 3 years? So let me know down below, which Pokemon did you end up getting chosen in the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Explorers of Sky, Darkness, or Time. For me, I actually got lucky and I got Mudkip, and then I got Squirtle, which were coincidentally my favorite Pokemon at the time, and then I chose my partner as Pikachu. Thank you and have a nice day.